Hello friends and welcome. This is Katie. Thanks so much for stopping by. I am back with another project for Maker Forte, and today I'm going to show you an easy way to soften your backgrounds with vellum. Now I used snowflake stencil for this, and I wouldn't say bold inks, but the background is pretty strong, and needing a way to have your sentiment shine through, vellum absolutely helps. So we're going to use some neon lights, Welsh Dragon, tartan teal, some clear embossing ink, some white pigment ink. We've got the Snowflake Trio stencil, and a few other products that I'm going to show throughout the video. So to start, we're going to ink blend a background. So I'm going to use neon lights. That's the lightest blue that I'm going to use in the trio of blue greens that I have. And I'm going to really saturate one end. So I'm focusing my coloring from the top down, of course, and using just what's left on my brush to soften and fade down to the end of the panel. This panel measures 4 by 5 1/4. So we'll have a nice little border to go around our card base. And of course, you can layer it with just about anything. You saw in the photos, I like to layer with black because I think even for the holidays, it helps those colors really pop on the background. So once I get a nice color with my neon lights, I'm going to come in with Welsh Dragon. And these three colors, neon lights, Welsh Dragon, and tartan teal, are really nice colors to blend together. They really do make it easy to transition your fades when you're ink blending, so you have a nice gradient. So I do take, again, what's remaining on my blending brush and come in at the bottom, just so I have nice even color from top to bottom. But I want it soft, so I don't dip back into the ink pad, to get more color. So now I'm coming in with tartan teal, and I really need to re-ink my tartan teal because I really have to go in quite a bit to pick up some ink. But you can see how it's just a nice dark color over top of Welsh Dragon and neon lights. And of course, as you continue to layer your colors, you're going to get a darker saturation as well. So just filling the rest of that panel in with that tartan teal, and then I'm going to come in with the snowflake stencil. Snowflake Trio stencil. These are pretty big snowflakes, so as you're going to see, it does take up quite a bit of that center panel, again measuring 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm taking tartan teal, and I'm going to make sure my panel is straight so our snowflake is centered, and really get some good deep color on there. So I'm going to dip in quite a bit. I'm going to really blend that color on there because I want the snowflake to stand out. Now, the next step that I do, you don't have to do. I wanted to try it out and see what it would look like. I don't have a super dark blue in the Color Hive inks, so this is another good way to get a nice, pretty deep dark blue. Okay, so here you see it all done. Now I'm going to take the clear ink, embossing ink re-inker, and add it to a piece of foam. Doesn't matter that I've got some blue ink on there. I am smushing it down just to kind of evenly coat that foam tool with that embossing ink. And now I'm just smushing it down onto the snowflake through the stencil so that I can add some of the Pluto metallic kaleidoscope powder. And I was trying to be neat because, the ink is still pretty wet and I didn't want to smear it around. But really the best thing is just dip that fluffy brush into the kaleidoscope powder and tap it on. Don't try to brush it like back and forth because it does kind of smear a little bit, that embossing ink. Just kind of pounce it on there like I'm doing here, and you're going to have excess. I just flicked it off. Again, I didn't really want to brush it too much because I didn't want it that pigment ink to smear. So now I'm going to come in with the stencil and some Snow Flurries white pigment ink. And I've tried a lot of white pigment inks, and I absolutely love this Snow Flurries. Now you can see my ink pad's a little bit messy there. It doesn't affect it. I've wiped it off with like a baby wipe to get, the main color off of that surface, but it doesn't affect that white pigment ink. If you don't like that type of thing, I definitely recommend having a second one on hand so that you have a nice clear, clean white pigment ink pad. But I really love this white pigment ink. So if you're looking for a good white pigment ink, this is it. Now, I wanted to fill in the borders, and you can see that it's pretty strong, and I didn't really have anywhere to put a sentiment. So to tone down that background, I took a piece of vellum. This vellum is a 48-pound weight, so you could go a little lighter. There's, like 29-pound and 40-pound, I think. You don't want it too heavy because then you're not going to be able to see your background shine through. But this was just enough to allow the background to shine through while being able to put a nice sentiment on. So I'm pulling from the Bold Holiday Sentiments, and I'm using that white pigment ink, and I'm going to use some clear embossing powder. I do ink this up 3 times just to make sure I got even coverage of that white pigment ink. Sometimes when you stamp white pigment ink, it kind of halos a little bit. So this made sure that it filled in all those little gaps. So clear embossing powder. I did treat the vellum with an anti-static powder tool, and now I'm heat setting this. And, vellum warps. Doesn't matter how hot you get your gun, it is going to warp a little bit. And I have a little flap to adhere the vellum onto the card panel. And so just using some 1/4-inch double-sided adhesive, I will add that to the main snowflake panel. And I love the softness of this. I thought about leaving the bottom loose, but I decided to add just a little strip of double-sided adhesive. Now, if you have 1/8 of an inch double-sided adhesive, that would be great here, because the excess I folded underneath. Not a big deal because we're going to adhere that down anyway. And I did take a piece of Eclipse black cardstock to layer on. I didn't do very good at lining everything up so it's an even frame, but you get the idea. Again, I had a little bit of tack from that adhesive, so just using my anti-static powder, rubbing it on that adhesive took the stick away. And then I added it to a white A2 side folding card base, and that finishes it up. Look at that little shine from that embossing powder. Great way to use white pigment ink. You don't have to sit and let it dry, especially on vellum. But that finishes it up. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure and check the description box below, and check out the Crafter Party, which is Maker Forte's Facebook group, and share what you're making. We'd love to see what you guys are doing. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.